Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Middle of the Pack Racing League GT4 Championship for 2022, as brought to you on iRacing, available on PC. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to continue the series that continues to entertain with fantastic racing action within the GT4 class machines available on iRacing, and it is the case today that we kick off the second of the three stages of this series with the America stage. And as the name would suggest, it is going to be the case that for the next three rounds, it will be a number of visits to different locations on the North American continent, some very famous American circuits, and what better place to kick it all off tonight than the America's National Park of Speed, known as Road America, and more details of the circuit very shortly. But before we come into the details regarding the circuit, we must take you through our schedule for tonight. As always, the schedule in times of British Summer Time, that's BST or UTC +1, being as follows. In approximately 14 minutes time, we'll be getting underway with our qualifying session. That'll be a 15-minute session to determine our grid order for tonight's one and only race, and that'll be the sprint race at 8:30 this evening, and that'll be a 20-minute race where it's all about leading from the front, holding on to lead until the very end of the race, until the checkered flag, and picking up the maximum possible points. And if you can also pick up the fastest lap whilst you're at it, then you'll get some bonus points to go to your championship tally. Now, as for the broadcast tonight, it's been brought to you live via one of two media platforms. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to Paul Walsh on YouTube, also known as TX141 TX on YouTube. Alternatively, you can go to Twitch if you are a Twitch user, specifically twitch.tv/TX141, and you can tune in there. Now, who is Paul Walsh or TX141? Well, that's me. My name is Paul Walsh, or TX141, or Brit to the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'm your host, broadcaster, and commentator for this series. Been covering it since the outset, and will be there to the very end when we wrap up in a few weeks' time with round number 9. But we've got a long way to go, and just one thing to clarify as well for the uninitiated: whilst this broadcast is live, it is the case that the race action you see behind you on the screen today, it is going to be the case that it's not quite live. The race actually occurred earlier this week, but we're going to be bringing it to you as if it were live. So it's the case that as your commentator, I do not know what's happened. I don't know who's won. I don't know if there's any instance. I'm going in completely blind, and that means you get the raw, live, authentic experience just as close as humanly possible to that of if it was being broadcasted on the day and at the time of the race. It does mean we have some technical limitations, so we can't look back, for example, at events in the race. We can't jump back and take a replay of specific events, but we'll try to do our best to make up for those limitations nonetheless. Well, speaking of limitations, our drivers won't have any limits when they continue to push on in this series, but as we look to the season ahead, it is the case that in the first 3 weeks, we saw that we started off with the F1 stage, or the Formula 1 stage in full, noting 3 circuits which are typically featured on the Formula 1 calendar of most recent years and also in early years. We started off in Brazil at Interlagos back on the 25th of May. We then went to the Red Bull Ring in Austria on the 1st of June, and then last time out, the race in action occurred on the 8th of June at the Japanese circuit of Suzuka, a circuit known to be a crowning piece in a championship campaign. Indeed, it can be one of the most dramatic circuits when featured on the Formula 1 calendar for the simple reason there is always drama and intense racing action at Suzuka, and Suzuka did not disappoint last time out, and we did see the crowning of our champions for the F1 stage, and we'll come to those shortly in terms of who's been confirmed as our champions. But after a week's break, we are back with the America stage, with round 4 seeing us head to Road America, and that of course is today. And then it will be the case in a week's time we'll be heading to Watkins Glen in the New York State, before making our way then to Daytona Road Course to have our second feature race round, and that will be the race in action on the 6th of July, and it will be the case that our drivers will be hard pressed both in the slipstream and through the infield section to battle it out over the course of 45 minutes of racing. After that, we'll be taking another mid-season break before coming back for the Endurances stage, and that will start off at Mount Panorama in Australia, then Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, before wrapping up at the Nordschleife of the Nürburgring in Germany. And it will be the case that final stage are 3 specially selected circuits that are typically featured on your endurance race calendars, particularly, for example, in the GT World Challenge Series, in the Endurance Cups, where we do typically see these circuits, but also in the Intercontinental GT Challenge, and specifically Mount Panorama in that instance. So plenty of racing action ahead, and there's been plenty so far, and the season is only due to keep up the tempo. Now, as we come from the season ahead to the standings going into tonight, after 3 rounds, looking at the Pro class first and foremost, of course, we do have 2 classes of driver, Pro and Am. Is the case in the Pro class. Austin Farr leads going into tonight on 65 points, the best part of what is 8 points clear of Edwin Onofre there. But really, it has been a story of two contrasts. Austin Farr seems to have been the driver with the ultimate pace, whereas Edwin Onofre has been the driver of the ultimate consistency. By far not the fastest win the Pro class, but the one who has been notching up results time and time again and staying out of trouble as well as he possibly can. Jerome Bajulas in P3, only a further 2 points behind there. One of a little bit of a dark horse, it should be said. We saw Bajulas really strong at Interlagos of the season opener, but since then he's having to really arrest a decline of momentum. And will we see Bajulas come back tonight in full fashion, or will it be the case that decline continues to be observed? We have then John Lauzon on 51 points, and really the best of the rest there, and closing up onto the top three. And we're expecting great things for the McLaren driver tonight, with then a sizable gap of what is 14 points to Sam Van Olst in P5, who is approximately 8 points ahead of John Wilding and Jordan Butler. Of course, John Wilding and Jordan Butler both tied on 29 points in P6, and both looking to get the upper hand on one another tonight. Henry Morse in P8 on 27 points, and then last but not least of our drivers who have scored points to the Pro class, Rocco Varth in P9 on what is 22 points. We also have unranked Daniel Downey and Tanner Dibble, who've yet to participate in a round so far. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum, as you see on the very far right there, in the Instant Count Point Championship, it is the case that at the moment, Rocco Vuff with only 5 instant points to his name, and therefore keeping a low tally, and we do hope to see more of him on circuits. That way he is eligible for the Instant Count Point Championship, and then it is the case that Henry Morse 6 behind on 11. Meanwhile, at the opposite end of the scale, we can see there is the case that Jerome Bajulas on 40 instant points. He'll be looking to try and avoid picking up too many more, as he will not want to lose ground to the likes of John Lauzon and Austin Farr there, who are quite close, and especially Jordan Butler on 37. Meanwhile, we then come to the AM Championship standings in the drivers, and it is the case that we can see we have at the very top on 56 points apiece Fernando Takahashi and Jermaine Warren. However, we should clarify, whilst it says they are both joint first, Jermaine Warren is technically ahead on result countback when we do it based on the number of wins they've notched up, and that's very important, as we'll come on to very shortly. But with those two tied at the front, there's only 3 points between them and third place driver Duncan Moraes, and the top three here have been very close. And again, a contrast to different driving styles. It has been the case that Jermaine Warren really has been the dominant driver in terms of outright pace. Duncan Moraes has been close to him. Fernando Takahashi, meanwhile, has been the driver about consistency and wringing performances out of his car. And will we see Takahashi take to the 4A, or will it be the case that once again we see Jermaine Warren dominate the standings? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. Lee Porter in P4 at 47 points. Don't count him out either. He is looking strong as he makes his way through the season, and indeed last time at Suzuka was starting to build up a bit of momentum, and will that continue tonight as he's only 1 point ahead of P5 drivers Justin Braggon and Mark Senegal there, and Braggon and Senegal in a little bit of a rivalry between one another, which is great to see, and we are really seeing a major midfield rivalry in the AM class. That also includes Rodney Felker there at 40 points, and Kenny B. Smith, or Kevin B. Smith as he's more formally known, on 28. Roger Ganesh in P9 on 21 points, only 2 clear Stefan Chalafu, and then Craig Parks on what is 14 points, the last of our ranked drivers there having notched up points. We have 2 unranked drivers of Albert Brand and also Antonin Adeo, who we're hoping to see take to the circuit in the near future. Meanwhile, in the Instant Count Point Championship, it is the case we can see there on only 5 instant points, Roger Ganesh. He is only 1 ahead of Kenny B. Smith. And then we do have Craig Parks and Stefan Chalafu are very close behind. And don't forget also Jermaine Warren. And particularly Jermaine Warren has been able to find a way to keep those instant points astray, whilst at the same time notching up some spectacular performances. At the opposite end of the scale, however, we can see 2 drivers on 28 apiece. That's Duncan Moraes and Mark Senegal. They will not want to pick up any more, with Rodney Felker only 1 ahead of them. And it is the case those 3 will be looking to try and reduce those instant points tonight, so that way they can close up to their peers. However, we will have to see if that is the case. Now, meanwhile, in the Teams Championship standings, and there's no formal prizes up for grabs in these standings, we just include them for reference, as there's a little bit of a rivalry between the teams. We can see after 3 rounds, Goldwing Motorsports on 136 points, only 4 clear of middle-of-the-pack Racing. It is the case that these 2 teams have really been pushing one another to their utmost, and we're expecting that rivalry for the lead to continue. But don't count out Blue Flag Motorsports, who in a bit of a no-man's land in P3. They are the best part of what is their 28 points behind middle-of-the-pack Racing, but they are a sizable advantage of 39 points ahead of Sunday GT Turtles. And will we see Sunday GT Turtles in P4 close up, or fall more closely towards P5 drivers DNA Racing, where the team there is only 1 point ahead of Ascension Racing, and then we have Delta Motorsports and Motus Racing completing the Teams Championship. Well, as we've covered our championships, it's only fair now we do come to our cup. Well, not our cup, our stage winners from the Formula 1 stage last time out. We weren't able to bring you that confirmation until now due to Stewart's verdicts, but it is the case. We can confirm after the opening 3 rounds, our winners in the F1 stage and both picking up a $5 prize. It is in the Pro class, Austin Farr in the number 52 machine, and it is Jermaine Warren in the number 214 car picking up in the AM class. And the reason we had to clarify that Jermaine Warren was ahead in the AM Drivers' Championship based on result countback is it was the case, of course, with Fernando Takahashi and Jermaine Warren both being on 56 points. We then had to go to the tiebreaker rule, which is then it comes down to who has the most wins, of which Jermaine Warren had the most wins and therefore is taking home the prize. But there's still plenty of prizes up on offer. Of course, another $5 prize up for grabs at the end of the America stage, the same at the end of the Endurances stage, and those are only 2 of a number of prizes in the pool. But congratulations to both Farr and Warren, and we do have to wonder whether they'll be able to continue their streak over the course of the America stage. Now, as we come onto the America stage, of course, our track for tonight is Road America, located at Elkhart Lake in Sheboygan County, Wisconsin State of the United States of America. This circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by simracingwiki.com, is a circuit which is all about getting through corners as quickly as possible and getting on the loud pedal, the accelerator, as soon as you possibly can. There are a large number of straights along here, very sizable straights, including the start-finish straight, the run from turn 1 to turn 3, the run from turn 3 to turn 5. That's only to name a few. We've also got the run out the carousel at turn 10, up through the kink at turn 11, perhaps the fastest corner on the circuit and the trickiest corner, which tests the driver's confidence in the run all the way down to turn 12 at Canada Corner. And then we do have the sweeping segment of turns 13 and 14 to complete the lap. But the emphasis here and the emphasis of the America stage, going away from the technical nature of our Formula 1 stage tracks, is about being on the loud pedal, being on the accelerator as soon as possible when you exit corners. Circuits in the United States of America typically flow a lot more and have a lot more momentum to them, and we will be seeing that here tonight at Road America, and definitely in those onboards in qualifying. Well, before we get to qualifying, we do have to clarify a few race rules. Let's take you through those, of course, and these are the rules that we typically follow. In the setup department, our driver shall be running the iRacing baseline setup for all races in this series, with car fuel loads being restricted to 50%. In qualifying, the session will be broken into 2 equal halves. The first half, which will be 7.5 minutes long, will see our AM drivers take to the circuit. The second half will be for our pros, again 7.5 minutes in duration. As for the sprint race itself, the race will start under manual double file rolling start, with the formation being held up to the start-finish line, after which drivers may go racing. So we'll see green flags as they're nearing the start-finish line, but our drivers have been told they're not allowed to go racing until the leader crosses the start-finish line. Each driver shall have 1 fast repair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 25 or more instant points. Well, that is indeed enough for rules and regulation. I know what you're all here for. I'm here for it too. We're here for that racing action. So we head back to the circuit as our drivers are getting set now. And, well, indeed, our cameraman immediately focuses on our AM Championship leader, one of 2 AM Championship leaders, and that is Jermaine Warren, our prize winner in the F1 stage. And the middle of the pack racing driver bringing the venerable Aston Martin Racing Vantage V8 GT4. And we should clarify that in the build-up to tonight, many of you will be aware, if you're iRacing followers, that it is the case we have seen the arrival of a new GT4 beast on the scene, and we say the beast because it is the case. So you can see John Wilding here from DNA Racing is bringing the Mercedes AMG GT4 here with its very powerful V8 power plant heralded from Germany, and it is the case that our drivers have been given the option to change to this car from their previous car, but they're not allowed to switch to another car in the GT4 class. So if you were racing in the McLaren, you could only switch to the Mercedes or stay with the McLaren. You couldn't suddenly jump to the Porsche, for example, and vice versa. And so it is a bit of an unknown ground for a good number of drivers who've gone to the Mercedes. We've got John Wilding, we've also got Justin Braggan, and also Tanner Dibble and Fernando Takahashi. So 4 drivers have elected to make the transition, but we still do have a few McLarens. We also have a few Aston Martins. We do have 2 Porsches out there as well. So it is the case we do have plenty of manufacturer variety, and we'll have to wait and see how the Mercedes deals with its foes tonight. One thing we're hearing, the rumour down the paddock, is that the Mercedes has got a lot of straight line speed. It is very fast on the straights, but it is naturally going to understeer into the corners, what being a front engine rear drive drivetrain, and Mercedes engine machines in the GT4 and GT3 class are typically known for their understeer, especially with that long nose and the fact the weight transitions very heavily onto the nose under braking and on corner entry. But we'll have to wait and see whether that comes back to the Mercedes. Well, it'll be the case that drivers such as Fernando Takahashi have made the smart choice, given the fact the America stage is all about power. albeit with some technique in there, but that emphasis on being able to get the corners as soon as possible and staying on the track as well, which Takahashi there, I think, exploring the limits of turn 11B and just seeing where the road surface truly lies. But as he makes his way out of 12, out of Canada corner, and up through the complex of 13 into 14 right now, not long to go. We've just got over half a minute before we do go to qualifying, and we say hello in the chat, in the Twitch chat first and foremost, to Lee Porter there and Max LB80. We also say hello to GT Eddie, also in the YouTube chat there to Dibbler. We've also got John Wilding in the Twitch chat, and also to Mark Senegal in the YouTube chat. And if you are tuning in, I hope you're all doing well. It is Friday, of course, which means the weekend is just around the corner, and I hope you've had a good week. And if you haven't, this will bring a cheer to your week, and well, it's the case, you've got a great weekend ahead. But we see that Albert Brand jump into the pits, and this will be his debut in the series, Albert Brand, so it's good to see him making it to the circuit. At long last, he has been missed. I know a number of tries down the paddock. We're very happy to hear that he was on the sign-up sheet. As we see here, John Low's on in the blue flag Motorsports McLaren, making his way through in the 570S here. And John Low's on one to watch out for, and particularly, I think, nursing a bit of a grudge with regards to the Red Bull Ring, where it was the case there wasn't enough fuel in the car, and he had to do a lot of fuel saving back when running 32%. And he's looking for a big result, I think, here. We'll wait and see. But qualifying commences, and now our drivers will be making their way out of the pit lane in rapid fashion. But of course, it will be our AM drivers when they make their way on out, and we do see it is the case that Albert Brand is the first driver to make his way out, running the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 here, and we'll have to wait and see how that car works out. Now, we are a little bit worried about the Porsche with regards to this circuit for the simple reason, and indeed the American circuits in general, although Watkins Glen may be a little bit of an exception, because the Porsche is known more for its handling characteristics than it is for its straight line speed. If it's given the opportunity, it can get up to quite a hefty top end speed, but it takes a lot of time to get there. And those of you tuned in for the Red Bull Ring, you may remember the Porsche really struggled at the Red Bull Ring with the number of significant straights. So we do expect the Porsche here is going to be very strong in the latter portion of the lap, particularly when we go through turns 12 through to 14. But in the early stages of the lap, it will struggle, particularly in the run from turn 1 all the way up to turn 5. But then again, the run through the complex here of turns 5 through to 10 could be a place where the Porsche is able to gain. We can see Brand here making his way through turn at number 5. As he rolls his way on out here, it is the case we also look to Stefan Chalafu making their way down towards turn number 5 as well in the long run. And as the McLaren driver makes his way on down here, we expect plenty of good things from Chalafu, who's really building that momentum in the McLaren, putting a good performance at Suzuka 2 weeks ago, and we'll be looking to continue that trend tonight as he rolls his way up into turn number 6. Very tricky corner, turn 6, because you come over the crest of a ridge and then into a heavy braking zone. I must admit, having done some of my own sim racing here at Road America in the GTE class, the number of times I've accidentally locked up the brakes, albeit they don't have ABS in GT class cars, but our GT4s do here. But a number of times I've locked up the brakes and gone straight on into the gravel. Oh, goodness me. And there's Chalafu there on cold tyres, locking up the brakes into turn number 8 and going straight on. It's very easy to do here. The circuit can be very punishing and catch it unawares. But right now, he'll be putting that one to memory and thinking, right, let's not make the mistake on the fast lap. But in terms of other drivers making the way around right now, we do see Mark Senegal here, also in the McLaren, rolling on through the carousel through turns 9 and 10, and looking a bit further afield, we can also see it is the case that Kenny Smith here rolling his way right now into turn number 9 in the Aston Martin as he gradually builds up the speed here, builds up the confidence and trust in the car, and rolls his way down towards the kink. But as he heads on around, we do look to what is our newcomer to the series, or at least our debutant, and that is Albert Brand, and we ride on board with the Porsche driver as he takes us around for a lap of Road America. So as he makes his way across the timeline here and heads down towards turn at number 1, it is the case of Brand building up that speed as much as he possibly dares before heading into the braking zone for turn 1. It's a long run here. It feels like it goes on forever. Up to top gear and inciting his brake marker, braking at about 120 metres and rolling the car through. A bit of understeering the car there. Hasn't quite got the tyres up to temperature or the confidence of the car, but now coming through 2 and into turn 3 here, braking at the 50-metre board and rolling the car through corner apex and getting on the power early, using the runoff curb in there in order to be able to settle the car and keep the throttle down, and now heading down towards turn number 5 through the kink of 4 as he comes charging down the hill. And it's a long run here once again into a downhill braking zone effectively, and now the circuit transitions into its most technical portion, which is turns 5 through to 10 as he heads into the braking zone and braking at 100 metres, going all the way down the gearbox, rolling the car through and getting back on the pound nice and early, using the runoff area there in order to exploit the lap time, and now braking into turn 6, braking underneath the Corvette board, and as he rolls his way through the left-hander, taking his time to get on the throttle, using the runoff strip, now into 7, and getting the car over to the left, braking gradually, in fact just the lift off there, not having to brake into turn 7, and now making his way down into turn number 8, looking for his brake mark on the right hand side, braking at the 100 metre board. You need a brake early for turn 8. It is the case it's downhill, the car will roll away from you. And as he exits out of 8 and in towards turns 9 and 10 here, it's all about balancing the throttle through the carousel. He makes his way through 9, and now as he transitions, lifted off the throttle, he'll feel the car starts to bite into the apex of turn 10 and immediately goes full throttle, and now it's the long charge into the roller coaster corner known as the kink here. We listen in. Lifting off there, and you can just see as he lifted off, he had a little bit of lift off understeer in the car as the car just did not want to go through the corner, but of course building up that tyre temperature still, and now charging all the way down towards turn number 12 here into Canada corner, and as he breaks his way down through the gearbox at the 150 metre board, rolling nicely through, using the runoff strip, and now heading through turn 13, 13A and 13B, the right-hander of 13A, going a little bit too much over the apex curve, down settling the car, and then through 13B just to roll off the throttle, and then reapplying it on corner exit, now into turn 14, and as he comes through the right-hander here, using the apex curve there to turn the car through, and now it's the long charge to the timing line, going uphill, and well, what will it be to set the pace from Albert Brand as he comes across the line? It is going to be, as he makes his way through, it takes a while for it to cross that timeline, and it is a 2:20.234. What else can our drivers here do here as Jermaine Warren immediately goes faster with a 2:17.895. Well, he's definitely on the ball tonight, is Warren, looking to continue that championship momentum. What about one of his rivals here, Fernando Takahashi? Right now, Takahashi, in fact, going on to his first flying lap. He's decided to delay his first flying lap. I think he wanted to be the last driver out on circuit, just so that some rubber could be laid down, some track temperature could be generated by the other drivers, and then he's able to go at it more aggressively. And do keep in mind as well, because our AM drivers, indeed our pros, only get 7.5 minutes, there is not a lot of time in this qualifying session. Our drivers only get 2 qualifying laps here, with the lap time being over 2 minutes, and therefore it is a very punishing qualifying session if you don't find that lap time within the first lap. It's the case, your opening lap, whilst it's a banker, it has to be a strong banker. You have to have that confidence, because you only then get one more lap, and on that lap you've got to choose, do you go all in and try and go for pole, or do you decide that it's going to be the case that instead you focus more so on delivering what is a safe lap that actually keeps you off the top stop? Well, it is the case, the top step I should say, where as he rolls his way on through here, Takahashi, we do wait for his lap time to come on in. We also do have Duncan Moraes here, who's coming to the end of the lap right now, the Goldwing Motorsports driver in that very definitive livery. Of course, it does stand out, I must admit. I do love the crest down the door sides, and as he makes his way to the timeline here, the Aston Martin should go well on the straights here. It's a very strong car in terms of acceleration, and he finally makes his way to that timeline. We wait, and there he crosses the line, and it is a provisional pole position on a 2:17.824, only 700ths faster than Jermaine Warren. What about Fernando Takahashi, who's yet to put in a lap time, and indeed Justin Bragan as well. Let's not forget him as he comes to the timeline here, and what Bragan do in the Mercedes, he does a 2:22.265. What about Fernando Takahashi? He goes third with 2:17.951. Takahashi really settling into what is the Mercedes then, nice and early to be fair. And well, if you're wondering where's our BMW M4 driver gone, here he is. Takahashi was in the BMW M4, but he's decided to retire from the BMW M4 and take on the Mercedes. So he swapped one German machine for another one, which I must admit I'm a little bit sad that we're not seeing a BMW M4 out on circuit. Again, it's the driver's choice at the end of the day, and we can't request that car variety. But we see here Albert Brand coming to the timeline to complete his second flying lap. He will actually get one more in. He's just timed this right to get a third one in. That puts him P6 on a 2:18.632. But I think he's going to park up there and decide enough's enough. But Jermaine Warren has just set provisional pole once again by 2 tenths over Duncan Moraes, and he will get one more lap in here, given he crossed the timeline before the 7.5 minute mark. We do have Stefan Chalafu coming to line. He's just going to miss out on doing another lap, and that's a 2:18.542. That puts him P6, gets him ahead of Brand, and that's not a bad lap there, but he won't be able to go any further in terms of improvements. Mark Senegal did not improve there from P8. What about Kenny Smith? Meanwhile, as he comes his way down towards the line, he'll be crossing it very shortly. In fact, he's going to park up here. He's not happy with that lap, and instead he's had enough. Well, it's going to be the case he'll jump to the pits. What about Lee Porter? Our cameraman just tries to find him. There is Lee Porter. He's yet to set time, in fact, and well, he only gets one lap, and it's a 2:18.942. But Lee Porter, a disallowed lap by looks of things. It is the case. The McLaren driver there will be starting P8 at best, and well, that is not a happy qualifying session. But then we do look to Jermaine Warren here, who is out here once again putting in the lap, and well, as he rolls his way through right now, he is 2 tenths faster than Duncan Moraes, and Duncan Moraes right now making his way through the final couple of corners. In fact, I think he's had an off track. Yes, he has. He's rally crossing his way from turn 13B up to turn 14. That lap will be disallowed. Of course, it will be a slower lap compared to his previous best, so Duncan Moraes is not able to take the fight to Jermaine Warren in his final final flying lap, so he'll be coming into the pits. Will there be any more surprises will be the question. Well, Justin Bragan right now making his way through what is their turn number 14. He'll be coming to the timeline shortly. Can he promote himself from P10 right now as he heads his way across? We'll wait and see. It's not looking a major improvement, to be fair, but then again, I might be made to mark my words as he crosses that timeline. It's provisional pole, which is a 2:17.566. My goodness, well, he's definitely made me eat my words there. As Fernando Takahashi meanwhile goes P3 in the end. The Mercedes army has come here strong, but we still do have Jermaine Warren on a flyer right now, and he has gone personal best in the opening 3 subsectors. In subsectors 4 and 5, he hasn't improved. He does have one more subsector to go here, so will it be the case that the Aston Martin driver is able to show that the old dog Aston Martin can still deliver some new tricks, or will it be the new dog on the circuit who is taking it to the top of the standings? He comes to the timeline. Will it be enough for Jermaine Warren? It is. In the end, he pips it to pole position by 2 tenths. Jermaine Warren takes pole in the AM class ahead of Justin Bragan in a very close shootout. Stefan Chalafu is making his way through the final corner right now, albeit he will not be able to qualify this lap. So instead we do jump to John Lauzon here, and we ride on board now with the McLaren driver as he takes us around for a lap. So as he makes his way across that timeline very shortly, we'll now get to see what the pros can do here on their first flying laps. And as we ride on board with John Lauzon, it'll be similar to the Porsche. In fact, we've got the engine in the rear of the car, or behind the driver in the middle, really. But the difference is the McLaren's got a bit more speed on the straights. And as he makes his way into turn 1, rolling the car through there, a very nicely hooked up opening corner. You can see that the smoothness of the line as he heads down through 2 and into 3. And as he looks for his brake marker on the left-hand side, he goes for a nice late apex here, gets to the power very early. That car really rotating well. I do think he's running quite a bit of brake bias towards the rear legs. You can see how the car lifted under braking at the rear and rolled into the corner very naturally. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 5 here, full throttle all the way. It feels like forever full throttle, and that can catch you out as a driver. He looks at his brake mark on the right, the 100 metre ball, braking at 115 metres, and as he rolls his way down the gearbox and into the corner, hooks it up perfectly, as smooth as butter there. And as he comes charging up the hill into turn number 6, under the Corvette ball, braking as late as he dares, straight line braking and rolling the car into turn 6, nails it, and now into 7 as he comes through the right-hander, a lift at the throttle, and now as he comes on through there, looking a good lap so far from Lauzon. He's really hooked up here, he's on fire in all cylinders as he breaks his way into turn number 8, rolling through the corner, no signs of any mistake, using the full width of the circuit every corner, now into the carousel, rolling his way into turn number 9 here, and he'll lift off the throttle and corner exit to set the car up to turn in for turn 10, gets a very early apex here, in fact too early an apex, and he's had to back the car off slightly there. That's going to cost him in the long run through the kink up towards Canada corner, the best part of about 2 tenths as he makes his way into the kink at turn 11, a little bit of a lift there, but uses the runoff space available, and also I think dips the wheel onto the grass very briefly, but keeps the point in a straight line as he now makes his way all the way, charging down into the braking zone for turn number 12, and as he heads into the tricky right-hander of Canada corner, it is the case he gets it hooked up there, and now making his way all the way up through 13A and 13B. No lift or throttle there, just full commitment through 13B, right on the edge, and now breaking his way into turn number 14 as he comes through the right hand here. It's a fast lap. I'm not sure if it's the fastest though, given the mistake that was made at the carousel, but to be fair, he's right on the limit. It's definitely going to be a strong banker for John Lauzon as he comes to that timeline. Albeit it feels like it will take forever. He crosses the line, and it's a 2:16.182, and well, Jerome Gilles is not able to go close enough at the moment. 1.2 seconds off in what is there the Porsche 718. That's still a very respectable lap given the nature of the Porsche and its balance of performance. But then we do look to John Wilding meanwhile in the Mercedes as he crosses the line here. The back member of the Mercedes, not the Mercedes, my apologies, the Pro group going around right now. Although I say that, we still do have Edwin Offrey who's making his way around and has yet to set a lap. He's decided to put himself out of sequence than the rest of his peers to avoid tripping over some of his other Pro class drivers, which can work of course, but in the fact that he's decided to delay his fast laps, this does mean he only gets 2 laps, not the additional 3rd lap, which some drivers will be craving as he makes his way on down into the braking zone here for Canada corner, and in that very definitive and distinctive automotive liveried Aston Martin there with a blend of blue and purple pink as he makes his way now through 13. It is one of those situations, I think. Onofre here will be targeted to place himself in the midfield. He has shown again he's not a pace driver, as we talked about earlier. He's still learning, albeit he debuted, of course, in the previous season in the Touring Car Racing Championship in the AM class, and has very quickly established himself as a firm midfield driver in the Pro class. But as he comes to a timing line, what will it be? He heads down towards the timing line, as he does clarify there for us in the Twitch chat. He actually had 2 spins, and well, that lap has not counted, so he has gone onto lap now. So there's been a delay, but it's the case he spun twice off camera, and well, now he's going to have the pressure on him, because he will only have 1 lap to deliver. As meanwhile, we do look from Edwin Onofre here to what is Tanner Dibble. And as Tanner Dibble makes his way through the kink here, the Mercedes, of course, is the case debuting, having made the switch to the Mercedes, and now Dibble will be looking to deliver, and I believe this is his debut in the series in terms of he hasn't featured any rounds up until now, and it's of course great to see that Dibble has arrived on the circuit, and indeed a brilliant circuit at Road America. And as he makes his way through the right-hander at turn 12, he will get 1 more lap out of the car here. He's got enough time to do it, and we will ride on board for that lap to give you a feel of what it's like in the Mercedes AMG, and you'll be able to hear that V8 in its full roaring glory as he makes his way through the final corner. And as he does, we now jump on board with Dibble. In fact, we're going to go quiet just as he charges down the straight. That absolutely lovely roar of the Mercedes V8. He's gone P2 on that last lap, and now will he be able to snatch back pole position here? We're 6.5 tenths off of John Lauzon, who, to be fair, my goodness, John Lauzon literally trying to bury the fielders. Oh, goodness me, what's happened there? That's Jerome Bajulaz, and I think that's also Jordan Butler who've been involved in an incident of some description. Coming down to turn 3, perhaps there's a miscommunication between the 2 of them as to who was going where into the corner. And now as we continue to ride on board with Dibble here, you'll see the difference now is in the corners. This Mercedes will have quite a bit of understanding. He might have to fight to get the nose to turn in as he makes his way down to turn 5. He looks to his brake marker and braking at about 110 metres here, using the curbing on the right hand side there to try and lift the car a little bit. He runs a bit wide there, just about brings the car back into track limits, but he has to back off. It's an invalidated lap. Very unfortunate for Tanner Dibble, and we've had to cut that lap short. As meanwhile, we see Edwin Onofre here going around to set his 1 and only time of this session as he makes his way to the timeline. The pole lap at the moment from John Lauzon is a 2:15.972. That is 6.5 tenths clear. Can Onofre get close to it here? I don't think he's going to be close. I think it's going to be the case in the end. He'll have to just settle, and in the end, he's going to have to settle for P8. He's the lowest place pro driver in the end in qualifying, and that's P8 overall. Well, it is the case that John Lauzon taking that pole position in the end in dominant form. I do wonder if it's the perfect lap, to coin a term, of course, from the movie Ford versus Ferrari, or Le Mans 66, depending on where you live and the title given to the movie in your respective native country. But John Lauzon taking pole in the end in absolutely scintillating form, and by 6.5 tenths. Well, I think everyone's going to have their eyebrows up in terms of how on earth do I match that McLaren driver? Well, of course, qualifying is just 1 session. It now all comes down to the race. Putting in 1 fast lap is an achievement, but can he put in those laps over the course of 20 minutes of racing? Well, as we do await to go racing, we've actually had it confirmed to us as well, which is from GT Eddie there, that it's well, and that is Edwin Onofre saying that it's not P8 for Onofre is the case. It's an invalidated lap, so he'll be starting at the back of the field, as I'm to understand it. We'll get those qualifying positions very shortly confirmed to us, as we are just waiting right now for the transition over to the race. But it is Lauzon on pole in the Pro class, and it is Jermaine Warren by looks things on pole in the AM class. And he's got Justin Braggon right on his heels there, P7 overall Braggon. I think we're going to see a great battle between the 2 of them, and then we will see the rest of our AMs bunching up with them. But the pros definitely really putting to the metal the fact that they can out-qualify the AMs here. We have not got that intermingling of the 2 driver classes in qualifying, and that's the first time we've really seen that in this season so far. We've typically seen that we have a good number of the pros intermixed with the AMs, whereas this time it is the case the AMs have distinctively qualified a little bit slower compared to the pros, but that's not a bad thing. It's just the way sometimes the classification goes. Well, hopefully we're not going to be seeing too much of a delay with regards to iRacing right now. Perhaps just an extra minute here before we do go racing. Unfortunately, we're a bit loath to skip things forward, and just in case it does end up jumping a little bit in the replay. But give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We should be going racing shortly. But in the meantime, we do say hello in the YouTube chat to John Wilding and also to Douglas Duarte there, who is cheering on Fernando Takahashi. We've also got there, I believe, Claudia Oliveira, who in the YouTube chat is cheering on Takahashi. Go RPR team. RPRT team. And, well, we are just patiently waiting as we do see there the fact that we see from what is Max LP 80 in the Twitch chat saying a 2:15. Indeed, John Lau's on with that 2:15. But now we are just at the mercy of the iRacing program. And there we go. There's the transition, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take you through that grid order for the purposes of round number 4. So line up on pole then on a 2:15.970, 6.5 tenths clear of the rest of the field. John Lau's on at setting the pace in the Blue Flag Motorsports McLaren ahead of DNA Racing's Tanner Dibble on his debut in the series tonight. We then have Jerome Bajulaz, who lines up on the second row, the Blue Flag Motorsports driver being joined by Jordan Butler from DNA Racing. Then it is John Wilding, who starts P5 on our third row, alongside pole position sitter in the AM class, Jermaine Warren there, the AM driver getting to P6. The number 214 car in the end just out qualifying the number 271 car of Justin Braggan, MOP Racing's driver there on P7. He starts off our fourth row with Fernando Takahashi alongside, and Braggan, Takahashi and Warren, I suspect we're going to see some sparks fly between them at the course of the racing tonight. Duncan Reyes kicks off our fifth row in P9 for Goldwing Motorsports with Kenny B. Smith line up the privateer in P10, and then we have the two privateers of Rodney Felker and Stefan Chalafu who make up our sixth row. Behind the AM drivers there are two more AM drivers of Albert Brand and Lee Porter. The MOP Racing drivers line up together, and then it's Mark Senegal from Sunday GT Turtles who starts off our eighth row with Edwin Offer starting at the back, having not set a valid time in qualifying. The pro drivers got it all to do, but now the formation lap is underway from what we're hearing, and as it gets underway here, we now do wait to go racing. But we've got a full formation lap here today at Road America. It is the case that our drivers have got a lot of time to get themselves prepared, and well, here you can understand why, given the fact it's such a long lap and the fact they'll want their tyre temperatures to be up as high as possible by the time they do go racing. So we look to the blimp camera here, and well, as our drivers all make their way down the start finish straight, it's great to see the splendour of colours, 16 drives taken to the circuit, and well, the things they'll be doing here as they make their way around, a little bit of weaving side to side when they have not got a car alongside them, just to get some tyre temperature into the car, but also on top of that as well, just calming the nerves a little bit as we see the blimp camera here obscured by the tree lines. So we do look back down to circuit, and Lee Porter, of course, with a very difficult qualifying session, will now need to try and find his way up the order. But to be fair, we have seen Lee Porter in difficult positions in the past, whether it's in this series, alternatively in the Touring Car Racing Championship series that we started off 2022 with at the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and it is the case. I think he'll be thinking to himself right now, how do I get some overtakes done into turn number 1, particularly with that long run down towards turn number 1. It is the case, the start finish line, whilst it may be about 60% of the way down the start finish straight, it is a very long straight, and we can expect that McLaren to definitely fly on the accelerator. But as they make their way on around, it is the case as well. We do look up to Jerome Bajulaz here and the Porsche driver. Well, it is the case, we talked about the Porsche, and we've really put the Porsche down, to be fair, I must be honest with you. But at the same time as well, for him to get it onto the second row with the pace he's got, he's showing his credit in the fact that he's got a lot of pace behind the wheel of that car, and I think on circuits which flow more smoothly with regards to that transition between corners, when we've got more direction changes in very short time, it will be the case that Bajulaz will be able to recreate that pace that we saw at Interlagos, and I think he's started to build that momentum up again tonight. But then of course we do have the big unknown of our Mercedes drivers, such as Justin Braggan, and just behind him Fernando Takahashi. How will the Mercedes perform in the race? Will it drop off? Will it be the case that the tyres wear quite heavily on the car? Will the brakes wear quite heavily? We've seen over a single lap, it seems to be very competitive compared to, say, the Aston Martin, and indeed, and the McLaren is right in there in amongst its peers, and that's a good sign, of course, of the balance of performance as set by iRacing themselves, the developers behind iRacing. But it's the case now in the race, will we see the car fade away early? Will we see it take a lot of time to get up to race pace? Those will be all the questions and more that we'll start to get answers for come the end of 20 minutes of racing tonight, as they make their way out of the carousel now and still way behind the safety car that's setting the pace. I think some of our drivers will be itching to go a little bit faster for the simple reason that it does feel like an age when you're running this slow. And as we ride on board here with Rodney Felker in the Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage staying in formation as they make their way through the King. Here's the case, most of our drivers, in fact all of our drivers being required to stay side by side in double file formation here, so we're not seeing too much side to side weaving. And it should be pointed out, these GT4 class cars do not get tyre warming blankets. Here's the case, the tyres start without the blankets, they don't come out of the blankets to keep them nice and hot. So our drivers have really got to generate that tyre temperature from the outset, and that could have proved a little bit more difficult for some than others. And we have seen, particularly at Suzuka, the number of drivers who ran wide into turns 1 and 2 on cold tyres, and will we see that again as they make their way down through turn number 12. As they come on through here, I can definitely see a lot of you in the YouTube chat in particular talking about your qualifying session, either drivers who participate in this, and also with regards to previous rounds results and what to expect from that Mercedes. Well, now as we do get ready to go racing here, it is the case. We are looking to our leader now, to John Lauzon, and Tanner Dibble alongside him as he makes his way through the right-hander of turn 14. We've still got a very long way to go to that start-finish line, but they're now on to the start-finish straight, and we wait for John Lauzon from Blue Flag Motorsports to take us racing. Lights out, away we go for the America stage of the MPRL GT4 Championship for 2022 as round 4 gets underway, and John Lauzon here immediately having to go defensive versus Tanner Dibble. Dibble is ahead by the nose right now. The Mercedes showing its grunt here, but Lauzon's going to battle for the opening corner, but he loses it here as Tanner Dibble goes round the outside in emphatic fashion. Jerome Bajulaz drops a place as well to Jordan Butler, but the Porsche driver now coming back as they make their way down through 2 and into 3. They come into the braking zone here. Bajulaz battling for that P3 position. He knows he has to defend on the straights here as he makes his way out of the corner, and as they head down towards 5, then he'll start to move towards more friendly territory. As meanwhile, further back in the pitch, we see Duncan Race has gained a little bit of ground. We then do have Stefan Chalafoud battling right now side by side with Kenny B. Smith as they make their way down towards turn number 5. They come down in long sequence here. Most of our drivers now going into line astern as they roll down, but Chalafoud still side by side as they roll down to the braking zone, but he gets ahead of Smith in the end as they make their way under braking. Edwin Offren meanwhile gaining some places, albeit he's got a battle with Mark Senegal and Rodney Felker ahead, and also that Albert Brand, as it is the case. Brand goes a little bit deep into the corner, and as they come into turn number 6, here's the Porsche up the inside of Brand, and as they come through, he makes it round, but will he be able to hold on into turn number 7 here as it looks as though Rodney Felker's going to try and come back. Felker tucks in behind. It's the case that Brand gains the position as we look from them back up towards our leaders. Tanner Dibble still holds the lead as they make the way into the carousel for the first time of asking, rolling on through, and now in that dirty our drivers may be feeling the pinch of understeer in excess of what they'd normally expect through the carousel as they come roaring on through. But Tanner Dibble, having made that strong start with the Mercedes grunt versus the McLaren down to turn 1, he's trying to break away as they come roaring through the King. And as they roar their way on through here, it is the case, all in long sequence. Oh goodness me, and that's Rodney Felker off the road there, coming out of the carousel, and he's had to jump to the pitch due to damage sustained to the car. Now we have fast repair if they can get back out on the circuit, but right now we can see the rear of the pack starting to fall away, as meanwhile our leading pack really now pressing on. Our top 5 in particular are breaking away. Bragan dropping John Wilding by a second already as they make their way through turn number 13. But you see Bragan there really having to battle with the Mercedes to get it to turn through turn 13 with some extra fuel in the car. It's almost as if he's trying to turn a boat through the corner as he rolls his way through turn 14. And as they come to a timeline there, you can see John Lauzon just going a little bit wide and getting a little bit of excess oversteer as he made his way out the corner. But as they all come underneath the timing gantry and head towards that timeline after one lap, it is Tanner Dibble who leads by 4/10 of a second ahead of John Lauzon in second place. Jerome Bajulaz third, keeping close to John Lauzon in the Porsche. Jordan Butler in P4, followed by the AM leader Justin Bragg at P5. Then John Wilding P6, followed by Jermaine Warren at P7, who battles side by side here with what is, I believe that's Duncan Moraes, as Moraes looks up the outside, and as they go down towards turn number 3 here, it's going to be the case that Warren is going to be able to defend into 3, and Duncan Moraes really putting that pressure on as they roll their way for the right-hander. Well, here's the case. Oh, goodness me, Duncan Moraes loses the rear of the car and just gets to the power a little bit too aggressively, and that Aston Martin is into the grass. But fortunately for him, he's got a lot of grass to play with, so it's not a whack to the wall, but that's a lot of time lost. As meanwhile, we look back up to our leaders, and John Lauzon is ahead of Tanner Dibble down the straight into turn number 5. Dibble runs a little bit deep into the corner, and I think that just misses his brake marker as they roll on out, and now Dibble's got a lot of pressure behind him as we look from the gearbox of John Lauzon here, and you can see there is the case that Mercedes looking very menacing in the rearview mirror from the back of the McLaren as they head into the carousel once again. They roll the way on through. We are hearing that Jermaine Warren has had an off and dropped a bit further down, but it is the case they make the way into the carousel. Well, not into the carousel quite yet, my apologies. They make the way into turn number 8. It is the case that John Lauzon goes a bit deep, and we can see Dibble now getting closer and closer as they head into turns 9 and 10. They roll the way through the long right here, and Lauzon going for a little bit of a deeper run out of 9 to give himself the line into 10. This is going to be critical here as they head down towards the King. You can see Dibble getting very close, but I think it's the case that Dibble's going to back out here and wait for the run into Canada Corner, which is turn 12. It's a long way away as they make the way on through, and as they come charging now, both of them using the full width of the circuit, they are breaking away. As meanwhile behind we see Jerome Bajulas here having to defend versus Butler, as Butler's going to try and go around the outside. He's got the overspeed. He'll get it done before they get into the braking zone here, and Bajulas, he's got nothing he can do there. He has to accept that Porsche just does not have the straight line speed, but to be fair, Bajulas is not giving this up, as meanwhile Fernando Takahashi has gone up the inside of Stefan Chalafu from what we're hearing to gain P12, not P12, P7 at turn 12, and that is P2 in the AM class. He roars his way through turn number 13, and they make the way towards the end of the lap. You see Takahashi already open up a bit of a gap there coming out of 13. I think it's the case that Chalafu not feeling comfortable with that McLaren right now as he goes a little bit wide out of 14, and that confirms our suspicions. I think Chalafu there just needs to settle it back down a little bit as Kenny Smith almost goes into the pit lane there to go past Stefan Chalafu as they make the way onto another lap, and Ken Albert Brand also coming through here. You see the Porsche drivers got the overspeed initially, but as they get towards top gear, the Porsche just runs out of legs versus the McLaren and the Aston Martin there in front as well. And the McLaren also has the aid of the Aston Martin giving it some slipstream, but Brand is going to go up the inside into turn 1. But will it be the case that Chalafu goes to the cutback? Chalafu does look up to the inside on corner exit, and as they make the way down the hill and in towards turn 3, no change here. Brand instead just holds the position, puts the car in the middle of the road to signal to Chalafu. You're going to have to be a bit more creative than that if you want to come on through. But meanwhile, as they make the way out the corner, our leaders have changed places once again. John Lauzon is back into lead as they make the way into turn 5. He defends versus Dibble, and as they come roaring on down through turn number 5, it is the case that we see behind Jordan Butler running a little bit wide. He's got to be careful. They won't want to pick up too many track limit points as they roll their way now into turn number 6. Further back, Fernando Takahashi here holds onto the position that he gained only moments ago, as we see behind Stefan Chalafu going position. In fact, he's having to defend position, we should clarify, from Mark Senegal behind. He's battling as well with Brand here, and Brand is going to defend the inside coming out 6 into 7. So Brand's not giving this up. He's showing that Porsche can be placed very well, and Chalafu getting a bit too close for comfort there as they come out of 7. You could see what he's trying to do. He's trying to get the overrun coming out of 7 to go round the outside on the braking into 8, but in the end he has to keep setting up these cutback moves, which, to be fair, Chalafu's got the time to do it, but the problem is every time he sets up a cutback, he will have Mark Senegal literally reaching out for that potential overtake for P10 as they make the way down through the carousel. And you can see Brand, they're going very deep out of 9, and he's going to lose a lot of momentum here up into the kink, and surely they're not going to go side by side into the kink. Well, you can see there it's the case that Chalafu peels back in. He decides no, he's not going to be brave, and I think give credit to him there in the fact you don't want to go side by side through the kink, but Mark Senegal's got a really good run here as they make their way down towards Canada Corner at turn number 12. He's going to go round. Will it be the case that Edwin Offred, the pro driver, has got to make his way all the way up the order? Will he be able to find his way up the inside into the corner? He's going to put his nose in. Chalafu goes a little bit deep, but I thought we also respecting the pro driver coming on through, and the Ascension Racing driver gains another place. He's up to P11 with 7 minutes of this race complete by the time they get to turn number 14. But as they roll the way on through right now, Offred still's got a long way to go, and we'll have to wait and see if he can take the fight to John Wilding, who's up in P6, albeit he hasn't got time on his side right now. But meanwhile, as all of our drivers make the way to the start finish line, so we've already crossed it, and our leaders right now, you can see our top 6 have made their way clear of the rest of the field by a considerable margin. It's still John Lauzon leading, but Tanner Dibble staying very close as they make their way out to turn number 1. A great rivalry between these two drivers really forming, and as they make their way into the braking zone this time, no change. But meanwhile, speaking of change, Mark Senegal up the inside of Albert Brand into turn number 1, and Brand just looking stationary by comparison. That's not too insulting. That Porsche just does not have the speed on that long straight, and now Brand has got to worry about the fact that it will be the case that an offer will be looking to come through very shortly as well, as we're hearing that John Wilding has passed John Lauzon for P5, and as they make their way through, I think John Lauzon, in fact, whoa, hold up a second, John Lauzon has dropped a long way down the order, and we're hearing in our ear he's actually had an off at turn number 3, and he rejoined after 4.5 seconds, and that's what's cost him here. He's dropped out the battle for the lead. He was leading in fact, and our driver who set that absolutely dominant lap in qualifying now has got it all to do once again in terms of battling his way back up the field. But the good news for him is that first and foremost he has John Wilding in front of him. Wilding right now not quite on the pace of Lauzon, but it is the case that Jerome Bajulas in particular, well, I think the Porsche driver here, if he can get ahead of either the Mercedes of Bragan or what is the McLaren of Butler ahead over the remainder of this lap, Bajulas is really going to take some time out of the drivers in front, trying to hold them off. So right now I think Lauzon can be comfortable and confident in the fact he will close up quite rapidly here as they make their way out of 9 and 10 as they head down towards the King. It is the case they roar the way on down. We can see Bajulas here really now just having to pray that he's got enough speed down the back straight to hold on to the position. But meanwhile, Justin Bragan here, the AM driver, the middle of the pack racing driver, in a world of his own compared to his peers. He's P3. Meanwhile, second place in the AM class, Fernando Takahashi is P7. And as they roll their way for turn number 12, it is the case that Bragan in a very comfortable place right now. And he's battling it with the pros, to be fair. And I think he's absolutely loving it. But remember, he doesn't score any extra points for beating the pros. He just has a little bit of pride, and he puts a small chip on their shoulders as he makes his way through turn number 14 once again here. But as they come to the end of lap number 4, and we still do have the best part of 10.5 minutes to go by the time they eventually get to the timing line, it is the case that Tanner Dibble is now your leader. And well, Dibble here has really been pushing on. It may have been the case he wasn't the fastest in qualifying, but he's showing what he's got now. And meanwhile, Bajulas here taking a look to the inside into turn number 1. I think that was more of a feint on Bragan than anything else. I don't think he was going to dare to do that at all. It would have been the lunge from very far back, but Bajulas goes wide, and he just avoids the wall there as he comes out of turn number 1. But now this does mean, of course, we're going to see it quite close as they roll their way through turn number 2. And you can see Wilding closing up already. Lauzon 1.5 seconds back and not able to capitalise. But as they make the way now down towards turn number 5, it is the case that Jordan Butler here chasing after Dibble. Still the gap is 5 tenths. As they roll their way down in towards the corner, it is the case right now. We'll have to wait and see whether we'll be seeing Bragan come through for the move. Bragan comes in very heavy on the brakes, in fact, and gives Butler a knock. And oh goodness me, it's a case of a missed braking zone. And Butler was running very comfortably P2. Well, the DNA Racing driver now will be absolutely foaming at the mouth for that. And Justin Bragan, to be fair, I think will be saying right now in his cockpit, I'm sorry, I missed my braking point. But the middle of the pack racing driver here will feel a bit of comfort in the fact he may have given a pro driver a bit of a shunt, but he's still got 3 seconds over Fernando Takahashi, second place in the class, as they roll their way through turn 7 and down towards 8. But as they come charged on down, it is one of those situations, meanwhile, whereby Fernando Takahashi, I think, will take some motivation that he can now actively see Justin Bragan. And when you're the pursuer, you do normally gain that extra motivation when you can see the driver who's ahead of you and you can see them very clearly. So I have to wait and see if Takahashi's lap times respond in accordance with that as they roll their way down through turn number 9 and into 10. But as they do in the meantime, it is the case that we look to John Wilding here, who is stuck behind Jerome Bajulas. In fact, we ride on board with the Mercedes driver as he heads down into the braking zone for turn number 12. And as they make the way through Canada corner here, Bajulas getting the better run initially into the corner, and in fact really seizing the apex aggressively and therefore losing the run. But as they make the way through turn number 13 here, you can hear that Mercedes just clattering its way over the curbs and hitting them very harshly as he comes into turn number 14. Now, you'll see here, Bajulas will get the better run on exit. Oh, I say he gets the better run, he goes for a spin. Goodness me, and the commentator's cursors hit Bajulas. I was about to say he'll get the run, but watch how the Mercedes closes up. But we won't be able to see that as Bajulas has taken a 180 reversal there, coming out of turn number 14. And he's got to get that car turned, but this is a disaster as he hits the tyre barrier and takes the rear wing off the car as well. That's going to hurt the rear downforce that he's been so reliant on for the car to keep it stable through the corners. And now Bajulas has got it all to do. But meanwhile, we look from one driver who's in arrears to one driver who is trying to put pressure on his peers, and that is Stephen Chalafu, who right now running P9 overall, P4 in class. It is the case. He makes his way into turn number 1 here, and he's chasing after Edwin Onofre. I think he's more focused on closing up to Kenny Smith, who is the best part of 5 seconds up the road from him. And as they make their way down to the corner, in fact, he's not 5 seconds up the road. I'll re-clarify that. He's 3 seconds up the road, and I think Chalafu will be hoping that Onofre essentially brings Kenny Smith towards him as they make the way down the straight here towards turn number 5. You can see how Chalafu tucking into the slipstream here of his pro counterpart as they make the way in the long run. And well, he's not going to fight it too hard, or is he? He peels out here, but is he going to go for a lift, or is he going to battle for position? He's battling for it here. He wants to take the fight to Onofre, and well, it shows, but he goes a bit deep into the corner. But to be fair, I think Onofre there just misanticipated how early he could get back on the throttle, and Chalafu gets the move done there with a bit of late braking, and well done to him. He's got the place, and now can he go hunting after Kenny Smith? will it be the case that Onofre has other plans and wants to come back at him? But as they make the way down towards what is turn number 8, it is the case of Chalafu right now. I think we'll be feeling a little bit of pressure from the pro behind him, but we do look from Chalafu, who goes wide there, and that pressure is already accumulated, and Onofre comes through again. And Onofre is showing good pace right now. In fact, he is the fastest of anybody in the GT4 classes here, whether it's in the Pro or the AM class. The Ascension Racing driver is showing a huge amount of pace. We must admit, we've had the retirements of both Duncan Moraes and Rodney Felker. Unfortunately, Rodney Felker having that impact with the wall on what was the opening lap. Meanwhile, it is the case, the wall coming out to turn number 10. And meanwhile, Duncan Moraes, we lost, I believe, just a lap or so ago. But right now, the field has opened up a little bit. We still do have 6.5 minutes of this race to go, plus the final lap. But everybody now settling down into a bit of a rhythm, and we'll have to wait and see what that means in the long term here. I think right now everybody focusing on those lap times as we inch closer and closer to the closing stages. But we look here from Edwin Onofre to our leader in the pro class, Tanner Dibble, and you can see here the two Mercedes drivers running 1 and 2, Dibble and Wilding. Well, the DNA Racing driver here will feel very happy in the fact that he's got his DNA Racing teammate behind him. DNA Racing having a great day at the office here as they roll the way on through in a very beautiful looking livery. I must say the combination of white, light blue and medium to dark blue, they're really standing out. And as they roll their way through the corners here, John Lauzon, well, remember he was leading earlier on, was John Lauzon, and now he's got it all to do once again. But as he makes his way down, where's the run from turn 3 to turn 5? I can tell you on that lap, it's the case that John Lauzon actually the fastest of everybody in the pro class, with Justin Braggin in fact going 3/10 faster than Lauzon. But right now Lauzon is really delivering. The only driver matching him for lap time actually Jordan Butler behind. But right now the Blue Flag Motorsports driver is trying to do everything he can to get back towards those leaders. Can he get back to that top step by the end? He's got 5 minutes to do it, plus the final lap here. If anybody can, based on the outright pace, John Lauzon can, but we will see if he can do it in practice. And Jordan Butler behind, I think we'll be thinking at this point, right, he's got to try and stay as close as he can to Lauzon, because when Lauzon closes up to Wilding and Dibble, if he closes up to both of them, they will fight, and that will bring Butler into the mix for a potential podium finish overall and, of course, in the pro class. But will that materialise? He will have to wait and find out. As we are behind, that's Justin Braggin there. And the MOP racing driver here, middle of the pack racing driver, of course, right now leading the AM class. So he's got a little bit of a cloud hanging over him with regards to that contact that we saw earlier on. And, well, right now, I think Braggin will just be focusing on one thing, and that will be getting the car to the end, and with as much time gap between himself and Fernando Takahashi behind as he comes charging out to turn number 11, out from the kink, in towards Canada corner he goes. It's a long way to go. In the meantime, Fernando Takahashi here, and a bit of a lonesome P2 in the M class, P6 overall. He is the best part of 6 seconds off of the leader, but he's also 4.5 seconds clear of Edwin Onofre, well, not Edwin Onofre, Kenny B. Smith, and it is the case Edwin Onofre has been closing up to the back of the privateer very rapidly as they make the way into turn number 12 here. And I think Smith at this point, we're worried about the fact, not Onofre necessarily, but the fact that coming up behind the pro driver is a very fast and challenging worthy Chalafu, who really wants to try and take that final step of the podium from him. And as they make the way into the final corner, we ride on board from the gearbox to Kenny Smith to give you an idea. As we see Onofre, they're getting a much better exit out of turn 14. I mean, it's going to be a formality here in terms of the pass. It's going to take a while, but you can see in the draft as they finally begin to swap places. We look to the blimp camera here, that distant view, but you can see how Onofre just gradually inching ahead as they make their way across the timeline. Still a long way to go all the way down to turn 1, but they eventually get to turn 1, and when they do, it's Onofre out the inside, and will Chalafu try and come through here? 9, Smith has gone a little bit wide and deep out the corner. He's been forced to because he's had to give the space, but Chalafu wasn't able to make the move, but he's all over the back, and we ride on board here with the McLaren driver. He hasn't got long to go, but he's going to try and go for that move nonetheless. And as they come out, turn number 3 right now, getting a little bit wrong there, a little bit unsettled, but the good thing for him is he's got the toe of the Aston Martin in front, and the Aston Martin only really faster once they get to that top gear. And it's not going to be exposed too heavily. They're now up into top gear. He's got the slipstream as well. He takes a look to the inside. He's going to go for all the brakes. He's done it before into this corner of the brakes versus Onofre. But this time Kenny Smith battling him on the brakes. They stay side by side. But now they make the way uphill into another left-hander at turn number 6. It's Chalafu on the inside. It's Smith on the outside. Smith's going to have to give the ground. And the Aston Martin understeers a little bit there. He was trying to stay on the outside to battle it into 7. But he just does not have the rotation in the car. And he loses the position as a result. And now you can see Lee Porter is also getting into this mix. We said earlier, watch out for Lee Porter. He had a bad qualifying session, but he'll come through in the race. He's made his way up into P5 in class. He's gained 4 positions since the start overall. And right now, the P10 driver for middle of the pack racing is trying to take the fight to Kenny Smith. as they come roaring down through turns 9 and 10. It is one of those situations whereby I think Lee Porter will be conscious of the fact that Smith is going to come back at Chalafu. As we see, they make their way up towards the kink here. Chalafu, of course, very wise with how he works his way through the kink. Indeed, I think Kenny Smith also recognising you don't overtake at the kink, you overtake after the kink when you have all the momentum behind you as they make the way down towards turn number 12. The leaders are just coming up the final corner to complete lap number 8, which means we'll have one more lap as Kenny Smith looks to potentially dive to the inside. And Chalafu there, I think, just literally thinking, you're not doing that, you're too far back. And Kenny Smith actually cost himself a lot of time as they make their way through 13 and up towards 14 they roll. And I think we might see a move down the start-finish straight from Lee Porter, but Lee Porter actually losing out a bit of momentum there through 13. I think just a little bit of hesitation, but now wait and see as they make their way onto that start-finish straight, just how much the McLaren driver can close up with the time remaining as we all go onto the final lap here. And where it is the case, our leaders already down at turn number 3. But we stay here in the battle for P4 in the AM class, the battle for P9 overall, as Lee Porter tries to close up to the back of the Aston Martin racing machine of Smith in front. Is he just not enough down the straight? But as they make their way into turn number 1, we now do look here to John Lauzon battling for P2 in the Pro Class and P2 overall versus John Wilding here. Wilding's going to go defensive as they finally come down through 4 and into 5, and Lauzon already ahead into the braking zone, in fact, and you could see Wilding in the end just not really trying to outbrake his opponent. I think he will settle for a P3. I think he respects that it's the case that Lauzon is the faster of the two of them, and he would rather take a guaranteed P3, assuming Butler does not have a quick burst of pace, rather than try to battle for P2 and lose out and finish P4. But he's going to stay very close to the back of Lauzon here. Maybe the case that he's setting up the comeback, the counter-attack, if you will, down into turns 11 and 12. But right now, coming off the racing line there to take a sniffer and move into turn 8, it hasn't worked out, and instead now he has to settle back in. We'll just wait and see. I think Wilding could be potentially thinking about the move into 12, given the way he's driving right now. And as we ride on board here with the Mercedes driver, he heads down in the round and all the way up to turn number 11 as he comes roaring through to the king. It will be the case now. He's got to nail this. Well, he nails it and takes a bit more of the apex curve than many, but it's within track limits. We do believe it's going to be very close here as they head their way down to the braking zone. You can see Lauzon reacting immediately to the fact that Wilding's had the better run. They're side by side into the corner, but under brake it is the case that Wilding has to look for the cutback here, but he's not going to find it. Lauzon covers him off very well. Meanwhile, it's the case that Kenny Smith, meanwhile, is chasing after Chalafu as they make their way through the king themselves and now down towards turn number 12. But we do have to cut away from them very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, because it is the case that right now he's made his way out the final corner. It's a long run to the start-finish line, and he's made his debut tonight, and he's made a fantastic one, for it will be Tanner Dibble from DNA Racing who takes the win in the Pro Class in the end at 3.2 seconds clear of John Lauzon and John Wilding P3 by only 2 tenths. Jordan Butler P4, and it is Justin Braggon who takes the win in the AM class, P5 overall, in dominant form at 10 seconds clear of Fernando Takahashi, who will come home in P6, that's P2 in the AM class. Then we have Edwin Offroad who comes home in P7 overall. Stefan Chalafu will, it's about side by side to the line, but Chalafu just beats Kenny Smith to the line for P3 in the AM class, P8 overall, Kenny Smith P9 overall, and Lee Porter completed the top 10. And then we have Jerome Pajulos here after his spin, recovering to a P11 when all is said and done, ahead of Albert Brand, Mark Senegal, who will make his way very shortly to the end of that. Albeit he's got quite a bit of the lap to go here. I think he had a spin earlier on in the region of turns 6 and 7, and that set him quite far back. And we can see Jermaine Warren as well. Both drivers having had a difficult day at the races, but we do look from them as they make their way around on their final lap to what is here DNA Racing as they line up in formation down what is the run to turn number 5, and well, they are very happy, there's no doubt about that, as it is the case that Tanner Dibble and John Wilding, both of them on the pro podium and the overall podium, P1 and P3 respectively, and well, that's going to raise the team standings in the team's championship, there's no doubt about that, and both drivers will take those points very gladly indeed. And in the end, it was a mistake from John Lauzon that cost him very dearly in a car that looked to have the pace to take the win, but one mistake was all it took to upset the apple cart. But as we see here, Fernando Takahashi on a cool-down lap as well, and I think he'll be very happy with that P2 in the AM class and really the best of the rest behind Justin Braggon. Of course, he may not be aware of the fact that Justin Braggon did have that knock with, I believe, at Butler, and therefore there may be a little bit of a cloud hanging over that, but we do look from drivers who have finished the race as well as drivers who are coming to finish the race. Here is Mark Senegal, who after a difficult day will come home P13, that's P7 in the AM class, and then Jermaine Warren will come home last of our drivers out on circuit, P14 overall, P8 in the AM class there. As that is the race complete, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results. Well, as the race results appear on screen, of course, these being subject to stewards' decisions and inquiries, it is the case that in the end, overall, Tanner Dibble taking the win ahead of John Lauzon by 3.2 seconds. John Wilding finishing off the overall podium and indeed the pro podium, with Jordan Butler and Justin Braggon behind, completing the top 5. Justin Braggon, our winner in the AM class, Fernando Takahashi P6, Edwin Offred P7, Stefan Chalafu P8, Kenny B. Smith P9, and Lee Porter rounding off the top 10. But as we look from the overall standings to the classes themselves, we look to the pro class firstly. It is the case that after 20 minutes of racing in round 4 at Road America, in the middle of the pack racing at a League GT4 Championship, Tanner Dibble in the end taking that win ahead of Lauzon and Wilding, who complete the podium, with Jordan Butler in the end in a difficult day, and I think he felt he was on form for a podium finish, being denied, not through his own mistake necessarily, but for an instant. Edwin Offred P5, a good recovery drive from Offred after a difficult qualifying session, and probably asking himself what could have been if he'd put in a qualifying lap that was valid, and Jerome Bajulaz in the end at P6, kicking himself, I think, for that spin, which cost him so dear coming out the final corner. Whereas in the AM class, the story is the case in a much more populated AM class compared to the pro class here at Road America. Justin Braggon taking the win by 10.1 seconds, with that advantage extending to 17.8 seconds over third place finisher Stefan Chalafu. They complete the AM podium, Chalafu putting in a great midfield pace performance, and in the end being rewarded with a podium, pipping Kenny Smith to the line, but in the end only 0.05 of a second, if that, and then Lee Porter completing the top 5, with Albert Brand, Mark Senegal, Jermaine Warren, Duncan Reyes, and Rodney Felker completing the AM standings. Well, what a fantastic race, ladies and gentlemen. From start to finish, Road America definitely delivered. And with that, the only thing we have to say is that that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for watching. And if you do want to know more about us at the Middle of the Pack Racing League community in terms of who we are and what we do in terms of leagues we organise on iRacing and other platforms, then why not check us out, our official Discord, alternatively our official Twitter. The links are available there on the screen, and particularly the Twitter at twitter.com/MOPRacing. But now our drivers will pack up their bags and move from the state of Wisconsin to the state of New York for Watkins Glen International. Round number 5 lies in wait in a week's time. And of course, the broadcast will be post-round, so we'll be bringing you that broadcast in the more traditional time slot on Sunday, the 3rd of July, 2022. It'll be fast, it'll be furious. If Watkins Glen is known for anything, it delivers high cambered racing action from start to finish. And indeed, our drivers will be looking to try and outpace one another lap after lap. And you'll want to be there. You won't want to miss it. But until then, thank you for tuning in. We have been the Middle of the Pack Racing League community. I've been your host, broadcaster and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit in a Spit. And until next time, have a great weekend. Stay well, stay smiling, stay safe, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.